now the latest ITV News Meridian in the south.
Good evening and welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines: give yourselves up. Police investigating an acid attack on a woman warned these two men, "We will find you."
Under fire, the hospital trust which told this man his skin cancer was not malignant when it was.
The five-star freshers, why it's hello hotel and goodbye student digs for today's university newcomers.
And Television Gold, a look back at the iconic moments as we celebrate 60 years of ITV. Good evening. Police investigating an horrific acid attack on a woman in Southampton have tonight named two men they want to speak to. And they're warning, give yourselves up. We will carry on with our manhunt until we find you.
It's the latest dramatic development in the investigation. And for more, let's cross to Emma Wilkinson, who's in the newsroom for us tonight. Emma, what more can you tell us about what police have said?
Officers say they're now trying to find two brothers from London, Billy Nathan Midmore, who's 22, and 26-year-old Jeffrey Christopher Midmore. Police say they are dangerous men who are clearly a risk to the public. It was on Friday night that a 37-year-old woman was approached in Guildhall Square and had acid thrown in her face. She is still in hospital, being treated for horrific injuries to her face, neck and arms.
So what more do we know about the actual suspects?
The brothers are both white, stocky and have London accents. Billy has a scar on his left arm, while Jeffrey has a scar on the right side of his face and a tattoo on his hand. Police say they could be in a number of places, but they know people in Southampton, Basingstoke, London and in the southeast. In a direct message to the brothers today, officers said, make it easier on yourselves and come forward.
Thanks, Emma. And any updates on that story will be on our website. Go to itv.com/Meridian.
Meanwhile, two men have been charged following another acid attack in West Sussex. It happened 3 weeks ago at Crawley Leisure Park. The victim was a 27-year-old man. Two men from London are due to appear at Lewes Crown Court next month. The two attacks are not thought to be connected.
A man who fantasised about shooting Prince Charles so Harry could become king has been found guilty of plotting a terror attack. Mark Colborne, who's 37, was caught after papers were discovered in his bedroom in Southampton. He'd made notes in his diary of his plans to assassinate the prince with a high-powered sniper rifle. He'll be sentenced in November.
Concern is growing for teenager Jessica Horton, who's been missing from her home in Winchester since last Friday. Jessica, who's 15, is asthmatic and doesn't have her medication. Officers have released CCTV footage of her at Winchester railway station and also images of two men who they believe could have useful information. Meanwhile, the deputy head teacher at Westgate School, where Jessica was attending, has also appealed for help in finding her.
I just want to say about Jessica how worried we are as a school community about her, what a positive influence she's been on friends and on staff. She means a lot to us in our community, and we want to reassure her that she's not in any trouble with anyone and that we're already worried about her and anxious to hear from her as soon as possible that she's safe and she's well. There's just been a really positive swell of emotion and care for her, and like I say, that reassurance that for her that she doesn't have to worry about what any of us are feeling, that we're looking forward to hearing from her and desperate for that information.
Finally, Jessica, if you're listening to this out there, please could you pick the phone up and let us know you're all right. I want to reassure you that you're not in any trouble, but we just want to make sure that you're safe and well.
There's been further disruption for passengers travelling between Poole and the Channel Islands. Services operated by Condor's Fast Ferry have been cancelled today while repairs are carried out. They're expected to resume tomorrow.
40 passengers on board a Gatwick-bound plane which burst into flames have launched a claim for compensation against British Airways. The plane caught fire as it prepared to take off from Las Vegas earlier this month.
More than 100 firearms have been collected by Wiltshire Police during a 2-week amnesty. Air rifles and pistols, shotguns, revolvers and handguns have all been handed in. Ammunition was also collected.
Now, Southern Water have been fined £160,000 in order to pay costs of £27,000 after thousands of litres of waste water were allowed to pollute beaches in Sussex.
The pollution closed 10 miles of beach between Lancing and Ferring for 6 days back in September 2012. Our reporter Richard Jones sends this report.
In just a few days at the end of the summer 3 years ago, 40 million litres of sewage poured into the sea. The cause was the breakdown of 3 pumps at the Southern Water Treatment Works at East Worthing. All the beaches along this stretch of coast were closed for 6 days. It came at a critical time. It was right at the end of the school summer holidays, and businesses were still hoping to make money.
The beaches closed for a few days and it was quite bad because people stopped coming, and it was the last weekend of the school holidays.
It was just the latest in a series of problems at the treatment plant dating back to 2009.
The court found them negligent. The whole incident could have been avoided, for a fairly modest expenditure in some backup systems to make sure they were alerted if the pumps went wrong.
A jury at Chichester Crown Court found Southern Water guilty of the sewage discharge, but who will pay the fine imposed today?
It absolutely will be the company who will pay this fine. It will not go onto our customers' bills.
Southern Water says it's invested £20 million to replace and refurbish all the pumps at the East Worthing plant to prevent any repeat of the sewage discharge 3 years ago. Richard Jones, ITV News.
Now, 5 towns in the region are in the top 15 places to bring up a family. Wokingham in Berkshire was first for the 2nd year in a row. Farringdon in Oxfordshire was 3rd, Lower Earley in Reading 5th, Carterton in Oxfordshire was 11th, and Fleet in Hampshire was 15th.
Now, you're watching ITV News in the Meridian region. Coming up, Simon Parkin with some good news on the weather front, hopefully, just for a change.
And one of our former MPs reveals how his first interview with us 25 years ago resulted in a rather bizarre misunderstanding at his local bank.
Well, for more on all of our stories, head to itv.com/Meridian. Any views or news, do call us 0808 1010 095 or get in touch via Facebook, or you can always send us a tweet at ITV Meridian.
Now, it's been named as the 3rd worst NHS trust in the country for shoddy treatment and misdiagnosis. But today, officials on the Isle of Wight defended their record.
Yes, they said the figures were flawed and didn't reflect the true situation. But that's of little consolation for Martin Cotton, who was told his skin cancer was not malignant when it was. Richard Slee has more.
A dark cloud hangs over St Mary's Hospital in Newport. It's been named and shamed as the 3rd worst NHS trust for unresolved complaints. It had 14.6 investigations by the Health Ombudsman for every 100,000 people treated.
Our job is to make final decisions on cases that aren't resolved locally, and we uphold about 46% of cases of complaints against acute trusts. And an awful lot of those ones we uphold should never have had to come to us. They should have been resolved locally.
One patient very critical of the Isle of Wight NHS Trust is Martin Cotton. Last year, his skin cancer was misdiagnosed as a mole, delaying treatment by 6 months. He's now waiting for the results of his complaint.
They've just let me down so bad. They've ripped my life to bits, basically. Well, once I was happy and going along, I'm under mental health care as well now because of problems it's caused.
The number of complaints made against the Isle of Wight NHS Trust were more than double the national average. But managers here say the Health Ombudsman figures are not comparing like for like.
We're a very different organisation to other acute trusts. We actively seek the feedback of patients, and therefore we did expect to see a small increase, but disappointed to see the low rating.
The Health Ombudsman agrees that its report should not be treated as an attempt to rank the performance of individual NHS trusts, because the variety of services offered will affect the number of overall complaints. Instead, the health watchdog says its report will help trusts to identify problems. Richard Slee, ITV News on the Isle of Wight.
More headlines now, and the last of the Royal Navy's Type 42 destroyers has left Portsmouth. HMS Gloucester was decommissioned 4 years ago. It was towed away today to be scrapped in Turkey.
And police officers from across the region are taking part in a training exercise to help improve stop and search techniques. 6 forces, including Sussex and Thames Valley, are joining the pilot scheme.
Now, he's been one of the stars of the show at past Lib Dem conferences, but at this year's meeting, Norman Baker was making the news for his book and not his politics.
As Phil Hornby reports, he lost his seat in Sussex in the election. It's meant he's had plenty of time to look back on his career, and it won't make easy reading for everyone.
This is the man who persuaded young Norman Baker to join the Lib Dems in the late 80s. Gordon, it's all you're doing, is the inscription. After his shock defeat in May, Mr Baker's written his story, including memories of his very first TV interview on this programme more than a quarter of a century ago. The next morning, he went to the bank.
The woman behind the counter said, "Oh, I saw you on TV last night." I said, "Oh, that's very nice," feeling very pleased with myself. She said, "You were on about 6:30. I said, "Yes." She said, "You're the weatherman, aren't you?" And she asked me what the weather was. And so I told her, and I thought this was quite funny. But every time I went in there after, she'd ask me what the weather was until I told her. I said, "I'm not a celebrity, I'm a councillor. The lowest of the low."
If we can put a man on the moon, we can mend a few water pipes.
No one, least of all Norman Baker, thought he'd end up in government. But under the coalition, he did. His first job was his dream job as Transport Minister.
You got on well with your Conservative colleagues in transport. It wasn't quite the same when you became a Home Office Minister, was it, with Theresa May?
It wasn't quite the same. Not that there was anything particularly antagonistic towards Theresa personally. I don't think in either direction there was. But the fact was that was a cutting edge of the coalition. That's where the differences were most acute in policy. That's why I was sent there by Nick Clegg, because we had to make sure we stood up for what we believed in.
His message to Tim Farron: the party can recover from May's election wipeout in our region. After all, he says, the Lib Dems have been here before.
In 1989, when I first got elected as a county councillor, we were within 1 week of bankruptcy. We were on asterisks in the opinion polls, not asterisks to Gore, but just asterisks. I mean, so things have been tough, but liberalism doesn't die. And there is a need for a party to champion issues like privacy rights, freedom of information, proper concern for the environment. And no one else does that as we do it. So there'll always be a need for liberals.
He's given up politics to spend more time with his music. His band have a new album out soon. But he will be watching Tim Farron tomorrow as the Lib Dem leader makes his big speech here. An important moment for the party as they aim to set off on the long road to recovery. Phil Hornby, ITV News, Bournemouth.
Now it's 13 minutes past 6, time to find out what's making the headlines on the ITV National News now. With the details, here's Alistair Stewart.
A VW boss admits we screwed up over emissions tests and claims. The world's biggest car maker faces massive fines in America and a Europe-wide investigation, a profit warning as its shares collapse. We meet the badly injured Afghan veteran vowing to walk again on Remembrance Sunday. And Q, 60 years of ITN, the stories and faces that changed the world of TV news. Join Mary Nightingale and me at 6:30.
Now, for hundreds of students, it hasn't been the easiest start to the year. They're having to move into temporary accommodation because there simply isn't enough space.
Yes, the University of Winchester has booked 80 rooms in local hotels. Oxford Brookes has had to open up residential blocks that aren't normally used to house more than 50 students. And nearly 40 students at the University of Reading are being housed in temporary accommodation.
With record numbers of students this year, demand for housing is at an all-time high, and business is therefore booming for private landlords offering top-end accommodation.
Yes, some with a gym and a cleaner are costing £300 a week. Christine Alsford reports on the rise and the rise of the luxury student pad.
Georgia Ray Saker will leave university with debts of around £50,000. Yet she doesn't regret for one moment opting to live in a private luxury block that caters exclusively for students.
I'm paying about £178 a week. It is quite a big price, but coming to a place where you don't know, it's all very new to you, and feeling so comfortable where you live I think is really important.
Ragad Fatadian thinks the £240 a week cost for her room with a view compares well with the alternatives.
Maybe they're cheaper, a lot cheaper, but they're not clean. Where they're located, it's not really safe, and I think that gives, you pay for what you get.
With the numbers studying for degrees rising and rising, many universities simply can't keep pace with the growing demand for accommodation. The gap in the market is increasingly being filled by privately run purpose-built studio blocks, complete with amenities from common rooms to gyms. They even cater for couples and come fully equipped. Total bill typically over £10,000 a year.
I mean, it is only a small fraction of the market that want to pay that much, but there is certainly a demand for it, and it does include everything.
Hello?
What many parents like about this type of accommodation is the high level of security that it offers. Not only is there a video intercom system to control who comes in and out of the building, but the communal areas inside are also monitored with CCTV. Around half of all business for Vita Student in Southampton is generated by international students, those like Nargis who want a home from home and are prepared to pay for the little extra touches.
We do have a cleaner, and that's very helpful because you're so busy with your studies, you don't really want to go through, oh, how do I clean this? And they actually do take care of that.
But some say the latest development is hugely worrying.
These private providers are coming in and offering all the mod cons, en-suites, fancy flats, and it's not what students need, but it means that they make a bigger profit, and so students are being forced to pay through the roof rents that is soaking up all of their loans.
You must be making a fortune.
That's absolutely not the case. It's very expensive to do what we do. We have very high costs of labour. We have many managers in every site.
It must be very lucrative though. You're not doing this out of the kindness of your heart.
Our intention is to run a business that makes a fair profit for the job that it does.
New arrival Dean Sanders says higher living standards are long overdue.
Students are more savvy than they used to be, so they do want somewhere nice to live. They don't want to be living in a slum, in somewhere covered in mould.
And that means in the future, the typical stereotype of student digs might become nothing but a dim and unsavoury memory. Christine Osford, ITV News.
Now, he'll always be known by so many of us for Monty Python, but aside from comedy, Michael Palin has also enjoyed success as an actor, playwright and globe-trotting TV presenter.
He's had a fascinating career and now he's reliving all the highs and the lows in a new stage show. His 30 Years tour brings him to Oxford next month and then Woking in Surrey.
Yes, it's based on 3 decades of his diaries, and as you can imagine, he's not short of material, as Lauren Hall's been finding out.
He's always had something to write about, from Monty Python to his travels round the world. Michael Palin has recorded all of it in his diaries.
In April 1969, I'd just given up smoking and I'd done it sort of cold turkey, so I was kind of rather pleased with myself and this willpower. And I thought, what else can I do with my newly discovered willpower? And I thought, well, why don't you try keeping a diary?
He'd found a new addiction, writing about his day-to-day life. His latest volume of diaries focuses on his travel documentaries. He wasn't sure he'd be any good as a globe-trotting TV presenter.
At the time, as my diaries reveal, I was actually a little bit scared. I had to film 6 hours of television. There was no script. It was just going to be encounters with people and all that sort of stuff. And I thought, how on earth are we going to do this? Am I the right person?
Of course he was.
It's quite dizzying up here. This is the classic picture postcard view.
I'm sure you get asked this all the time, but of all those places you've been to and explored, what's your favourite place?
Well, I must say waking up in the morning in Machu Picchu can't be beaten. That is pretty fantastic.
But over the next few months, he continues his travels, taking his 30 Years tour around the UK.
I'm looking forward to going to Oxford because that's really where my, if you like, the sort of career, if you can call it a career, started, because it was at Oxford that I first met up with somebody and we did cabaret, we wrote material, comedy material, and acted it.
Is there anything you haven't done that you'd still like to do?
Well, nothing dangerous, but I love musical instruments. I don't play any musical instruments. Whether it's too late to do that, I don't know. Otherwise, I just still love travelling because I think travelling constantly sort of surprises you.
So the journey continues. And one thing's for sure, all of it will be noted down in his diaries. Lauren Hall, ITV News.
That'll certainly be worth watching. Now, it's hard to believe, but it's been 6 decades of entertainment, and today ITV celebrates its 60th birthday.
Yes, from The Sweeney, Blind Date, The Darling Buds of May, and of course Downton Abbey. A lot has happened since 1955.
In our region, it was Southern Television first in 1958. TVS followed in the 80s. And Meridian in 1993.
Hello there, a very warm welcome to the first ever edition of Meridian Tonight.
And who could forget the likes of Thames Television, London Weekend Television, all on Channel 3 before One ITV.
Over the years, millions of viewers tuning in to some of TV's biggest and best-loved programmes. But who remembers this? Our very first advert, a minute long, at 8:12 p.m. on September the 22nd, 1955.
It's Gibbs SR toothpaste, the tingling fresh toothpaste that does your gums good too.
Regional news from Good Morning Britain through to the 6 p.m. flagship show and late evening, bringing local stories to local communities.
ITV, the entertainment channel, launched in the year Sir Winston Churchill resigned as Prime Minister, and the film The Dam Busters was released.
It's come a long way in 60 years, bringing people together, being at the heart of entertainment, programmes, news, current affairs and sport, changing lives.
So here's to the next 60 years.
And Fred's been here for a big chunk of that and he still looks the same, doesn't he? What's going on? And to celebrate 60 years of ITV, an hour-long special of our most famous programme is being broadcast.
Caroline Whitmore has been catching up with the cast on the cobbles of Coronation Street.
It's a huge production with more than 600 people on site. That's double the usual amount. 32 cameras will capture the full live episode. The script was finalised 5 months ago, but it's all being kept top secret.
Tina, Sean, can you tell us, if anything, what actually happens in the live then?
Well, viewers have seen that Callum's been putting the pressure on. He's out of jail again. He's really bent on revenge and he will stop at nothing to get what he wants. The Platts are going to be in a lot of danger.
October of last year we saw you on our screens. Did you know back then that you had to be doing this live and you were such a massive part of it?
No idea. I was only meant to do 8 episodes and then when Tina came back in it, that whole other storyline developed and the writers have seen something and kept him on, so it's been a good year.
Not long to go. No. How are you feeling?
Well, this time tomorrow night, it'll be a different feeling, I should imagine. You know, it's the nerves are jangling a little bit now. It's a bit like the old days, you know. We used to have a couple of days rehearsals, you know, when we was only doing like 2 episodes a week, but now we're doing 5 a week. We don't have time to rehearse. This is a bit of a luxury, actually. 32 cameras, 600 crew, amazing. Feat, what we're all doing.
Coronation Street writer Debbie Oates says it was a privilege to write the hour-long special.
Greatest challenge is the physical, the geography of the set. Suddenly we were factoring in getting an actor from one end of the studios. That might take a minute, and a minute is quite a, you know, is a length of a scene. I don't normally have to think about that.
11 cameras will also capture the action backstage, which will be streamed live on Coronation Street's Facebook page. There's also the chance for Corrie fans to choose the background songs in the Rovers, an interactive drama first.
When you do rehearsals, it's quite eerie at night. Everyone's so serious, no one's messing around anymore.
It's like, come on, crack on now.
Game time.
How's Adam?
EastEnders Live, Jo Joyner, she said Ian Beale's real name, Adam. Does that worry you that you could mess up?
I call her Sarah anyway. I get confused.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
There's a lot of physical scenes, so there are so many things that could go wrong, but I think if you spent that time thinking about that, I'd never sleep. I'd actually never sleep.
Nothing's going to go wrong.
We're live, 7:30. We're on for an hour. It's going to be fantastic.
Brilliant.
It's going to be fantastic.
Can't
and
wait.
You're going to be glued, aren't you?
I will be there.
I'll be working, unfortunately. And as Kevin Webster says, you can see all the cast of Coronation Street going live tomorrow on ITV at 7:30.
Now, a group of young rugby players from Southampton have returned to school after taking part in the opening ceremony for the Rugby World Cup. The 10 teenagers from Cantel School performed in front of more than 80,000 people at Twickenham.
It was amazing, yeah, going out in front of 82,000 people. It was a bit nerve-wracking, but it was really good on the day.
My parents were really, really proud, yeah. They were just telling all their friends and just saying, oh, have you seen my child on TV?
With all the crowd and just the actual idea of that you're on TV in front of so many people, it's just once in a lifetime.
Oh,
Well
they're
done to them.
celebrating. We're celebrating. We've got cake, Simon.
Yes, we have got cakes, because a more fierce competition than even the Rugby World Cup is Sunrise Sunset. I have here a plate of ITV 60th birthday cakes here.
Don't drop them.
And you can get one right for every one of the sunsets and the
there's a
sunrises that you
Yeah.
get right. So I'm going to pop those down there safely. So first picture, gorgeous. Look at this. This is from Martin Curtis. It's the fountain in Gosport and a bit of the Spinnaker Tower behind as well. What do you think?
Sunset.
It's a sunrise. Oh dear, bad start, Kenneth. How lovely is this? Andrew Gregory in Loxheath, his entire family,
be a set.
and the dog. West Wittering Beach.
Sunset.
Sunset is right.
Yeah.
One cake.
Yes.
One cake. How often have you stopped the car, went down the window to take a stunning photo? That's what Robert Skirman did in Dorset. But was he on his way to or on his way from?
To work.
Yeah.
Yeah, sunrise. Well done.
Yeah.
2 cakes. Here's the sun now, balancing on the trees at Engle. It is coming. Here it is. There you go. Englefield Park in Field from Vincent Hutchins. Up or down?
A sunset.
It is a sunset. We're getting good at this now.
Here we come.
Tony Peterson sent in this one of the
Beautiful,
River
look at that.
Arun.
What do you reckon?
Set.
Sunset?
Yeah.
It is a sunset. OK, last one then. Taken from above the clouds as Terry was coming back from holiday. Postcard still hasn't turned up, by the
I
way.
reckon sunrise.
I was saying set. But
Go for set.
Set. Oh, bad choice. Should have gone. You see, I lost count, so basically I'm going to keep all of the cakes anyway.
no, we need to share.
2 each. I counted 2 each.
Yeah, I think
Yeah. Well, here we go with the weather. Hope things improve. Here's the forecast with Simon.
That's us driving on, us driving off in France, and us outside a chateau.
Driving to Europe. Eurotunnel Le Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Well, here's a lovely picture from Kate that reminds me, if you ever miss the forecast on the telly, you can always catch up on the web. But tonight, the weather is looking much better than it's been today. The low pressure taking the showers with it. Then we've got a dry and settled tomorrow until the next weather front piles in from the west. That's going to bring some cloud and eventually some drizzly rain as well. But back to tonight, and it's an improving story. Showers dying away. A lot of clear skies overnight, though, and that means it's going to be quite nippy. Temperatures down in some rural spots to around 5 or 6 degrees, and there'll be some patchy mist and fog too, but that should burn away pretty quickly first thing tomorrow morning to leave us with plenty of blue sky. As we head through the day, of course, that cloud is going to thicken from the west, and then, like I say, there is a chance that you could see a bit of drizzle just in the far west before the day is done, but certainly the best of the brightness towards the east, although even here temperatures 16 degrees, 61 in Fahrenheit, still not that brilliant. Your high tide times, well, you can see in Bournemouth 2:15 in the morning, then around 8:45 in the evening. More outbreaks of rain through the night, still with us Thursday morning, but it will brighten up later.
Eurotunnel Le Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Things are looking up, aren't they? In just a moment, the national and international news with Alistair Stewart and Mary Nightingale.
But for now, from all of the team here at ITV Meridian, thank you very much for your company tonight. We'll see you again tomorrow. Good night.
Good night.